Deep within the pages of our science fiction stories lives the idea that we have conquered the great medical challenges and complications that plague us. In those stories, we live longer and better lives. But we have seen science fiction become science fact before. In this speech, I will show why cloning, while seeming like science fiction, to many could become science fact and help us conquer those great medical challenges and complications we face today. Throughout this speech, I explore the current state of cloning and research around the world, potential benefits of human organ cloning, and how one of the biggest hurdles in cloning research is public opinion. I'm not a scientist, a researcher, or a science fiction writer, but those credentials are not what necessarily make one credible, because currently one of the biggest hurdles is not the science or the research itself, but public opinion, which acts to hold back helpful legislation and studies that could spur another space race-like fervor for human organ cloning. The topic of cloning sparks the imagination, often with hope or, at times, horror. But what is active in South Korea at this moment could soon be active in the United States. The reality of cloning in 2016 is thus. Currently, pet cloning is active in South Korea, and people travel from all over the world to use the service. Writing for TheGuardian.com in 2015, Diane Taylor recounted the story of cloning in a lab in Seoul, Korea. SOAM, the leading laboratory for world dog cloning, has produced more than 700 dogs for commercial customers. Taylor continued, there are currently no regulations on the cloning of dogs as pets, though the cloning of human beings is illegal. And in August, the European Parliament voted to outlaw the cloning of farm animals. The cloning process is not always easy, and thus it isn't very cheap. Taylor reported the services at around $100,000 per pet. Taylor writes that the lead scientist for SOAM is Woo-Suk Hwang. She recounts how Hwang is no stranger to controversy after claiming in 2004 that they, Hwang and his team, had created a human embryo stem cell from cloned human embryos. However, Taylor writes, ultimately they delivered false claims and received a 2-year suspended sentence after a conviction for embezzlement in violation of bioethics. With characters like Hwang and processes like pet cloning leading the headlines, and the newest cloning methods may seem to many as Dr. Frankenstein-like science fiction, but the realities of the cloning have sparked real policies that deal with its implications. According to the FDA, retrieved from the FDA.gov article titled, FDA Issues Documents on the Safety of Food from Animal Clones, after years of study and analysis, the Food and Drug Administration has concluded that meat and milk from clones of cattle, swine, and goats, and the offspring of clones from any species traditionally consumed as foods are as safe to eat as food from conventionally bred animals. Now that I have discussed the current state of cloning, let me move on to my next point, which is how can cloning help overcome great medical challenges. When many receive the diagnosis of heart failure, kidney failure, liver failure, or a litany of other such organ failure diagnoses, they are faced with a long path that is filled with a lot of uncertainty. Human organ cloning could be the life-saving answer for those individuals. Diane Taylor from the same 2015 Guardian.com article writes, an embryo stem cell can in theory become anything you want it to. A new personalized heart, a genetically identical liver, new kidneys, your own replacement nervous system. The trick is to work out how to derive them and then how to use them. Nobody yet has gotten very far. In the research article, Bioengineering Human Myocardium and Native Extracellular Matrices, Jacques Gayet stated more than 25 million individuals have heart failure worldwide. with 4,000 patients currently awaiting heart transplantation in the United States. Donor organ shortage has real limitations, with only 2,500 hearts transplanted each year. So if you only got 2,500 transplanted a year and you need 4,000, you've got a real problem. Now that I have discussed the potential benefits of organ cloning, let me move on to my next point, which is how public opinion can shape policies to spur the research and development. It's not hard to imagine a world where organs can grow in a lab, but it is hard to imagine a world so different from our current societal views where it could be commonplace. In 2014, the staff of Genetics and Society.org, examining a composite of a Gallup poll taken yearly, concluded that Americans very consistently oppose animal cloning in general, on which there are at least annual surveys. They strongly disapprove of pet cloning and even the use of cloning to reestablish endangered or revive extinct species like dinosaurs. The poll data years range from 1997 to 2017. Writing for the New Atlantis in 2008, Yuval Levin wrote, "Easily the most unusual and outstanding characteristic of public views on the stem cell and embryo research issues is a self-reported lack of familiarity with the facts. For instance, whether they or those surveyed about stem cell support were familiar with stem cells research. Only 17% of the respondents said they were very familiar. This points to there being a lot of confusion about cloning," as Levin wrote. In the same 2008 article, "As long as ethical principles and biomedical advances are in tension," he wrote, "it's hard to see how the deep internal contradictions and public attitudes could resolve themselves." In conclusion, cloning seems like science fiction, but it is quickly becoming science fact, but not quick enough. For those individuals facing a failing organ diagnosis, to move the conversation forward, we need individuals to become more educated about cloning, so that their ethical concerns can be solid ground and not science fiction. I have discussed how cloning is becoming more prevalent, and how it can help us conquer the greatest medical challenges we face today. Throughout this speech, I have explored the current state of cloning research, the benefits of human organ cloning, and how public opinion, public outreach, and support can quicken the development process. After all, the first heart they clone may